Well, I guess we'll go ahead and get started this evening.
I don't think it's on yet.
Is this on? Okay. Yeah, it is now. So I want to thank everyone for coming tonight to our branding reveal. I don't know a good title for it, so that's what I've been calling it. And we're honored to have Professor Greg Thomas back with us tonight to enlighten us on all the work he's been doing over the past year to get us to this spot tonight. And so without any further ado, I'm just going to turn it over to him.
All right, thanks, and I'll take it. So let me ask, first of all, how many were at the event almost a year ago at the hotel? Beautiful. Well, I got some of those slides I'm going to show you again. Not because, only because I want to make sure you understand, again, the process. And if you're like my students, there's no amount of times you can tell them. So we're going to go through some of that stuff, and hopefully tonight what I plan to do is just lead you through the process. From when I left you last year, which is a long time now, all the work that we've done that led up to tonight. And it's important because this isn't something that happens in a vacuum. It's something that happens with the people of the city, a lot of interviews I conducted, surveys, and we're gonna take a look at that. So we got tremendous amount of input, and that culminates into what you're going to see tonight, the final product. So can you all see this? Is it clear enough? You're like my students. Everybody sits towards the back. But all right. So first thing I wanted to do is thank these people. And I put this slide up at the front instead of at the back because when I was told about this project a year ago, the enthusiasm by City Hall and city manager and tourism and everybody, as I mentioned to you then, that's what galvanized my wanting to do this because you don't see that happen much. And for a small town, in relationship to some of the towns or cities that we've done, it was a great outpouring and a very interesting group of people. So if you noticed, I thank a lot of people there, but then mostly the people of Coffeyville, because it's you who own this, and you who are the ones that got us to this point. And it's going to be you that's going to shepherd this thing through after I leave. So the first thing is we're going to talk a little bit about a destination brand, which is basically this is. We want to make it part destination, why people want to come to Coffeyville. It's the totality of perceptions, thoughts, and feelings that visitors hold about a place. Okay, so I found this postcard from, I don't know when, but if you can see up in the left, the Midland Theaters there. Well, if I was growing up in Coffeyville when this postcard came out and I returned and saw the Midland again, I'd be very pleased, especially in the state of how good it looks. So those are the things that we're talking about. It's the history and the future of the city. So, okay, this is a little test. I can't be a professor unless I give a test. So how many people recognize that object on the left? Okay, that's all? Okay, all right, big hands. I always say big hands. All right, well, you know that because of the shape of the bottle. Part of the soft drinks marketing was always the iconic brand of the bottle. They're changing that a little bit now, and I think I saw, Kendall, did you have the competitor brand around here? Anyhow, doesn't matter. Okay, well, you can, but if I ask you to tell me what that product is on the right, would you know? What if it was a Pepsi can and I just put red around it? It's generic. It doesn't have a personality. It doesn't tell you who that belongs to, which is what we're talking about tonight, owning this brand. So that was part of our test, and I think everybody, well, great on the curve, everybody passed. But that goes back to this slide. Now, you know these companies because you deal with them every day. And the reason they're up there is because of name recognition, zillions of dollars spent on TV and advertising, and you use them. But we're not those people. We're a small town. So I keep saying small town, but it's bigger than some of the ones that we passed on the way down here. And it's a good town. And I'm going to get into that in a little bit more. But these are brands that you use every day, so you're familiar with them. So this is part of my other presentation, and you might remember these. But I ask you then, who is Coffeyville? And where do we, I included myself in this, because after this time I feel like I've been adopted, which is good. I like the city. But where do we want to be? So what it takes to make us have this thing happen is something I told you about last year. Every one of you in this room and out there is what we call a stakeholder. And the same word applies to stocks and stuff. You own something. You own a stake in this, maybe in the old gold rush days. You're a stakeholder. You own a stake in this. And those are all who invested in the development of the vision for Coffeyville and are willing to carry it forward. So we see it's in your hands after tonight. And remember also I talked about a promise. All brands, all good brands, have what we call a promise. And the promise is that tagline, which we're going to get into in a little bit. It's not the mark itself that's so important. It's the tagline. Because the tagline is the thing that you're telling people out there that you're going to deliver to them. It's not the icon or the logo. It's that promise. And you have to live up to that promise. Because if you don't, then people won't come back. People won't be interested in what happens. And so a promise, all these are big words you got to remember. I mean, they're small words, but they're very important. A voice. A voice is a word that means it's about the people that make up the brand, the things that drive them, their loves, their hates, and what they want to share with the world. So what do you as residents of Coffeyville, what message do you want to get out there? So that's under your jurisdiction too. But voice is another important word. So the takeaway, why are we doing this? Why are we spending our time? Why are you leaving dinner or not having dinner yet maybe to come here tonight and see this? Because the takeaway is so important. The first takeaway is economic development. For the city to put a face on that potential companies, clients, whoever, will say, this is a progressive place. They're doing neat stuff. I want to go there. I want to relocate my company. It's for that young couple that, in today's world, can work anywhere. And so why not come and buy a house in Coffeyville? I can do my Wi-Fi stuff and my internet from my home and have a business, a cottage business, where I am. So economic development is very important here, and that's what really drives this. So the City Hall will have the taxes and the ability to make the improvements that they're doing already with the street signs. So that, in that way, it's really important. Quality of life. I think that, for me, is one of the really big things. You all want a better quality of life or maintain just status quo. But things can always be better. The city can always be better. When they make improvements like, and I'm speaking out of hand, I don't know, but deterring the traffic lights and making it more pedestrian-oriented and getting some shops maybe to open up, that's going to help the quality of life. Wouldn't you like to be able to stroll down the street, maybe sit out at a table and sip a coffee or something and just enjoy this city? I think so. But quality of life is really important. So the last thing on this list, which is the takeaway, is Coffeyville pride. And I put that up there, and I'm going to repeat that a number of times because pride was a word that I heard a lot in the interviews, in the surveys, and it was the lack of pride that people had. They didn't feel they had anything to be proud about Coffeyville yet. I think you do, and we're going to find out what that is. So the main reason we're doing that is to build that pride, because if you have pride in your city, something's going to happen, and something for the better. So there it is. What would it do? Well, if you have pride in your city, you're going to have pride in your work. You're going to have pride in your opportunities that happen because new things come and maybe you'll become part of it. But most importantly, it's pride in making this place the way you want to live or where you want to live. And, you know, the people I've talked to, a lot of them are here because they've been here all their life. A lot of people are moving here, like I said, young families, because of cost of living and everything. You get a good deal. You get a good price on a house. So why would I want to move to a bigger city? So, okay, so we talked about this before. What is a brand? Well, a brand are all these things, and I'm picking on a restaurant specifically, because when you choose a restaurant to go to, you look for all these things on the right. It's got to be a nice location. It's got to have a pretty good reputation. You might have heard the chef is good. The ambiance, and the service, and the value. You know, everybody wants a lot of food, don't want to pay a lot for it. But the problem is, if you look at this chart, if any one of those things is bad, the brand goes bad. I could have the best dinner, but maybe I got it a half an hour, 45 minutes late. So the service affects that. The ambiance. So all these relate to each other. So you have to deliver all these things to make it a memorable night out. The restaurant does. So what are the things that the city has? We call them touch points. You can't see the red type up there. But a city really promotes itself on the fact of having these characteristics. The location, you know that old Hollywood saying, location, location, location. Well, that's true. And again, when I came last year, where your location is paramount. You're right in the middle of everything. And we should take advantage of that. We'll talk about that in a minute. Reputation, well, you got a good reputation. Shopping, we'll deal with that. People, couldn't meet a better group of people. Sort of like the president said last night, I'd rather be here than there, wherever there was. But food, yeah, we're going to work on this. Uniqueness, we got that possibility. Value, obviously, is here. Memorable, yeah, I can probably have a good time in Coffeyville. Heritage, hands down, right? Nature, you got parks for the citizens that are, I was told, very good. And cultural, I think you got the college, you got a lot of things going for you. So what does this headline say? I should have done it in lighter type. What makes a good destination brand? Well, that helps if it's attractive, it's consistent with positioning, conveys excitement and quality, expresses the destination's personality, is memorable. You know, I want to leave here with a good memory, kind of remember the restaurant analogy. Simple, transportable to the web, which means give me that experience on the web, and I think looking at your website is a good one. Unique and well accepted by all partners. So this is getting a lot of type. Sorry, I tell my students never to put that much type on a screen, but you know, I guess I need to practice what I preach. But I think some of these are important because it enhances civic pride and advocacy. Again, I was surprised at the amount of people that really support the town. When I came and conducted interviews, it was a very long period, but we gave everybody an hour, and there were 15 or 16 people, and we just had them talk. I asked them questions, but they are definitely advocates, as are you, because you're all here again tonight, which is really important. So anyhow, I'm not going to go through all these because there's more important things to get a hold of, but and there's even more text. Okay, but I'll read some of these. Important ones, like corrects out-of-date, inaccurate, or unbalanced perceptions. And for those of you who were at the first show, I'm going to rub it in again. So be prepared when we get up to it. It improves stakeholder revenues, profit margins, and increases lodging taxes. Increases the attractiveness of local products, and increases the ability to attract, recruit, and retain talented people, which is, again, paramount. So the tagline. Again, remember, I was saying that it's a promise. And this is really one of the more important ones. So here's some ones that we showed last year when I was here. Probably the one that everybody knows the most is what happens here stays here. Everybody know that one? Mm-hmm. Okay. That's very successful. And but other ones, always turned on, rare and well done for Omaha. These are not real good promises. Where yeehaw meets ole for El Paso. I mean, I don't get it. So the crucial part is coming up with something that people get. And so here's Coffeyville. And again, we talk about things that need to be simple and easy to use, able to withstand time, deliver the promise, unique unto itself, and so forth. So I showed this slide last year, and it was not the, I'm being gentle. I didn't want to offend anybody, but the diversity of what is sent out, imaging Coffeyville, is all over the place. It's like a pirate's map or something. I don't know which one to focus on. So what we want to do is try to have everybody sing in the same tune, and that will help a lot. When you look like you're cohesive and have the same message, and you're sending that message out, then people get it. So we want to kind of help a little bit on this. And brands that have emerged as city's most valuable assets have done so through, like, building a strong Coffeyville brand will provide clear definition of the city, a stronger connection with customers, a compelling identity, and a unifying umbrella, which is important thing. What we did is just create this umbrella. Everything else is going to go underneath that umbrella. And create synergy between the people that use it. And again, look at the word. Is there again pride in ownership? Pride that you're a Coffeyvillian? I don't know. What's the right word for that? I just stuck these in. I was in LA for 40 years and did this as a living. We did it for countries and cities. Was in print a lot for a lot of the work that we did. So I'm just giving you the credibility factor here again. So again, what is a destination brand? A destination brand is a place where people will leave their present location, like Lawrence, and in order to come and visit, shop, invest, or relocate due to your promise. And that's important too, because you want people to say, why am I living where I am when I could be down here? So part of what we did in LA was on Broadway Street downtown, it doesn't look like this, but for the mayor wanted to see what could we do to improve it and bring people there. So we faked this in Photoshop or whatever and showed them what it could be. And that's kind of what my job is. Even when I talk to my colleagues at school, and we're all designers, I have trouble conveying to them what I'm thinking. And we got to sit down and we got to draw this stuff. Well, we do the same job, but somehow what's happening here doesn't translate very good. So it's always best to try and show you. Okay, so this was a case where, again, we wanted to create street furniture. Street furniture is like your traffic sign that you're just putting in here. It helps, it makes the place nicer, it shows that the city cares and so forth. Another one of the cities we did was Durham, North Carolina, and that was, I think I told you last year, that was interesting because Durham and Raleigh are 15 minutes apart. Raleigh's the state capital, so every night on the news you'd see, oh, there was another murder in Durham last night. Well, yeah, there was one in Raleigh, but you didn't talk about that. So they kind of trashed Durham a lot. And our job was to reciprocate, if that's the right word. So it was fun, and of course we had Duke University as a big stakeholder in that. So again, here's where we illustrate what could be for this little town called Alhambra, California. Alhambra Castle was built by the Moors, and they had such beautiful tile work there that's known for that. You go see the castle, you got to see the. But the upper picture is downtown Alhambra, which is pretty stinky, and all we did was imagine what it could be like if we brought the Gap in, and the city council, I know there's some here, were really excited because they thought we signed the Gap up, but we didn't. We just put their logo over there. So what happens prior to all this stuff, though, is research. You can't do anything without understanding what the problem is. And as a designer, our job is to understand the problem and then fix it. Sort of like a doctor. If you go to your doctor and you tell him, well, it kind of hurts. Well, you got to be a little bit more specific than that, because he or she's never going to be able to treat you if you don't. So just a little, going back, we did this little town up the road called Garnett, and they figured that they wanted to be, they kept calling themselves Mayberry, the Mayberry of, I said, well, I don't see Andy Griffith walking around or Barney, and when you actually go there, it's quite different. But what we did was we talked to a lot of people, and these are just little things that we got out of it, much like what I'll be showing you in a second. So this is one of the quotes, and I think that might be relevant to this as well, to Coffeyville. They have 1,500 people that leave there every morning and go somewhere else. Why can't we capture those people and keep them here, or at least a percentage of them? So 750 of those jobs in this area, that's 750 people that eat in our restaurants. So that's important. So they had all this stuff, this mixed bag. This is, again, part of the branding process where everything looks different. Everything is hodgepodge. And in front of that beautiful city hall, they built this piece of architecture that is, I'll be nice, it's to our veterans and stuff, but it's really ugly, and it really takes away from the beauty of that building. But the important part is this picture on the right. That building is empty, and there's a number of buildings that are empty there. Well, it's a beautiful building, and when you put shutters on the windows, what does that tell a visitor that comes in to visit your city? It tells them basically, go away. We're not open, or we don't care. So there's buildings that, again, I saw a year ago, still there, and I still think they have great potential. So anyhow, here we go about Coffeyville. So I found all these old postcards, and there we are. We all know that. And when I talked about location, you know, I don't have to tell you, look where you are, near the border of Oklahoma. You got everybody intersecting this city. So I'm sure there's been attempts in how to capitalize off of that, but we want to go further. So when I first got this, and this will be the reminiscent part that'll probably make some of the hair stand up on your neck. When you Google Coffeyville, you come up with these pictures. So I had already been down here, but I said, well, I don't want to eat that place. I mean, look at the side of it. It's not not very good. But I really want to go to here. And then I see pictures like this that tell me that's a great layout. Look at the parking that's around those buildings. That tells me right away that this could be a very pedestrian-oriented downtown with parking around it. So I could go and walk and shop and have that coffee I was talking about, and then just get in my car and leave. But at least you have the infrastructure to do that. And that's the area that I'm talking about. So attributes, again, things that I felt really were compelling about the story of Coffeyville. Look at your community college. And it's a good one. You got this building, which again is, everybody knows this building and what its history is. And this building, that's the Brown building, right? Okay. The high school, nearly everybody I talked to went to school here. So that says something about this place. I showed you this. I found a sculpture yard over that way and just loved that thing because there were so many really neat sculptures there. And that stuff, again, you can't find that somewhere else. That belongs to Coffeyville. So you need to put that in a more prominent place, I think. But here, again, I'm going to pick on, and I apologize if there's property owners here, but if you've got empty rooms upstairs, that's where those young kids or old kids like me, could do internet businesses. You can go anywhere and do business now. But those are valuable spaces. Not many people can get a loft nowadays or be in a downtown district. What happens when you build up those upstairs, the stuff that happens downstairs kind of it just happens. Why? Because those people need to eat. They need to be entertained. They need a lot of things. So what you're doing is building that infrastructure above so it'll feed what's happening downstairs. So that's really important. It can go the other way around, but it's better to start getting people up and using those things. So again, here's another building, beautiful building. Radio Shack sign's probably not there anymore. I don't know. You still have Radio Shack here? Yeah, well, that can come down. So again, here's a typical case of anybody that drives by here will see the beauty of this building. The fact that it's in a state of repair and, I wish something was happening there. I'd go to it later. But also down the road in Independence, there's another theater just like it. But I'm not impressed with that one. Doesn't look as good, does it? So again, if I'm Googling things, and somehow I got this Seattle Space Needle when I Googled Coffeyville. I don't know why, but it came up, and I thought, wow, you guys have really been busy since I was here last. And again, I don't know whose this is or whatever, but this atrium, and I can see that somebody's trying to lease it out, but spaces like this are really really valuable. Why? As I mentioned before, here's a place in Greensboro, Alabama. They had the same thing, a lot of blight, a lot of empty buildings. They created this thing called the Pie Lab, and basically they make pie there, all kinds of really good pie and coffee. And you go there, it's a very social place. You have your pie, you dance sometimes, there's some dancing going on. But it was a raw space that somebody didn't have to invest very much money in, and yet it's created this focus downtown. So what's next? And this was my last slide of the last thing. So again, I don't want to rub this in again, but if you, again, Google, this is what you're going to get is, the flood. And it was a terrible thing, a very, very terrible time in the city's history. But it's over with. It's history. That building is no longer there, nor is the debris there. I hope it's not. All right, well, okay. So here's, when you go to images, this is the page of images you get. The 75% of those are the flood. We want to change those pictures, and how do you change those pictures? By creating new, interesting things that are going to get posted up there. And yeah, the flood was part of history, just as the Daltons were part of history. Some things you want to remember, some things you want to forget. But if I was thinking about moving here, I would be, this would be a detriment for me. And, it's kind of like Rodney Dangerfield. I don't have my tie on, but I don't get any respect. You don't get any respect. I found this at a very prominent store that we have in Lawrence, and it's in Kansas. They're all over. But what can you notice about this cup? What? You got to speak louder. There is no Coffeyville on this cup. Now, what rocket scientists couldn't copy Coffeyville and put it on this mug? Because our Kansas City took up so much room. Or maybe it was Pittsburgh that has pancakes. I don't know what that image is. But there's no Coffeyville in there. So that's disturbing. Okay, so we're gonna go one more on this. Here's a map of Kansas somebody did. Well, we got Amelia Earhart. We've got Buster Keaton, grew up in Iola. We've got Dodge City, which should be gunslingers and stuff. For Coffeyville, we got 4 guys with bandit masks on, which again is part of your history. But looking at it out of context, I think, oh God, am I going to get robbed if I go there? Or what is this? Where everything else are very positive statements, Coffeyville isn't. I mean, it's part of the history, but not knowing what the history is, it doesn't resonate with me. Okay, so what is your history? You have such a rich, valuable history. And from airplanes, it's painted on your building, one of your buildings down there. That plane was a custom-built plane, limited edition. I should be happy about that. Boots. I was telling my wife, Coffeyville invented the left and right boot. Now, there's a rocket scientist for you. I mean, if you were only designing one boot for both feet, that must have hurt. The glassware. Ball glass, I believe, was here. Everybody and their grandmother and great-grandmother probably have used a ball glass container before. And the brick and the natural gas. There are so many things that this city offered and is part of your culture, your history, that it's hard to pick one of these and say, this is Coffeyville. And that's the dilemma I had, is what do I focus on? Well, and here it is again. We've got medicine. You now have the only hospital that's nearby, right? You have a gentleman here that I know very well who's in medical-oriented things, right? Okay. So I think Coffeyville owns medicine and healthcare. Let's say just say healthcare in this area. The next one, you can't really tell what it is, but they're big buildings. So driving in here again, you see how much landscape you have devoted to industry. So we got those buildings. We just got to put people in them. The bricks, again, part of Coffeyville's history. Education is such an important part of this place, whether it's K through 9 or high school or the college, it's important. The natural gas elements, and then, of course, the history part. So this is what we did. This is what I've been doing since I saw you last. We had 102 surveys returned from the public that we handed out, and I'll show you those. Over 75 people attending the initial meeting, and that's a conservative estimate. I bet there was probably more than that, because that room was full. Would you say there were 75 people? or more? 93? Okay, well, then we can change this. 16 personal interviews. I know that back room there very well. Every corner and crevice in it, because I spent a lot of time talking to these people. But the details and the information they gave me about growing up here or why they've moved here and so forth, it was really important. In fact, it resulted in 300 pages. 300 pages of transcribed dialogue. From the 300 pages, we cut it down to, I think, 180 something. And then finally, we had to focus on just a few. But anyhow, it started with 300 pages. So the Leadership Coffeyville class was a part of this. They helped us a lot. And then 91 surveys targeted at the high school. And that was great, too, because we got a different demographic. And you always need that. And sorry you can't read these, but these are the answers to some of these. And they're not long. They're short, but they're important. So we got this kind of information. Whoops. Where do I need to be? Did I run the battery out? Well, that could be the end of the show. No. I'll do whatever it takes to see the rest of it. Oh, maybe it's. Okay. There we go. All right, so these were the handwritten things, and we asked, and probably some of you participated in this, we asked for 30 words that resonated with you when you thought of Coffeyville. Well, a lot of people misunderstood what a word was. They made sentences, but it was all good because it just helped us more in identifying what we wanted to find out. So, keywords from the audit. Going through all this information, we see words that you probably aren't too surprised with. Gas and oil, prime location, aeronautics, bricks. There were some testy ones in here too. I can't say that it was all nice. There's people that were very candid, and that's what we wanted too. Tolerance, I think, was really important because there were some people I interviewed that I couldn't imagine that the city has been as tolerant to ethnic groups and whatever than what I heard in those interviews. It was amazing. Here's some dicey ones in here. Dirty, confusing. I mean, you're there, but you're going to find that with anybody. So then we conducted a survey that was done on the internet. It was, you probably partook in this. It was called Survey Monkey, and it asked you a lot of the same kind of questions. And from that, we got this kind of information. And what are these things? Well, what events or celebrations make Coffeyville attractive? Well, this one is Interstate Fair and Rodeo. So obviously that tells us that's pretty important here. And I think that's a good way that you probably can tie in the Dalton Defender Days, if you don't already. I don't know. So then we did a matrix where we found out how many positive on the left side is negative, and how many positive responses. And there was way more positive responses than there were negative. So that's a good thing. So here's the interviews, and I'll just go over this quick because it's very important you understand how the interviews were conducted. The interviews were conducted to gather specific information as to how residents candidly felt about their city. Over 15 candidates were selected for the interviews representing various socioeconomic, leadership, age of residency, and other criteria. And it goes on and on and on. We're very fair about who we chose. There was a beautiful woman, a single mom with 2 kids, on welfare probably, who is really thankful that she lives here. Thankful? Yeah, because she is able to have the quality of life that she probably couldn't get anywhere else. And so it ranged from those people to some I would tend to say, Coffeyville leadership people, So here's a quote I thought was interesting, and I pulled a couple of these out. There's 300 pages of this, but so I snipped some of the more relevant ones out that I felt were interesting. So it's a rural city with urban challenges. That's a nice comparison. And here are some of them. I don't know if you can read them. I just pulled a bunch. Can you see them from back there? You probably can. Okay, I'll make these 4 sheets available to Kendall maybe so that you can read them, because you have to read them. But they're both positive and negative. One of them here says, I don't ever go home with a boring day ever. There's always something here. Well, that's important. The one thing I always say when talking about Coffeyville is the diversity in town. And when I say diversity, I mean ethnic diversity, which is important also. So there's 4 pages of this out of 300 and some. But I think they're quotes that, again, help me and the people that I worked with help focus in on what's the outcome of this going to be. So we have plenty of these. And so then we get to, after going through those and talking to those people, there's certain threads that start to tie to each other. Specific words, like the 30-word project that we did, the interview project, Pride, I mentioned earlier, came up. Well, here's 2 lists of 1 page, 3 pages, of potential taglines. For me, the tagline for Coffeyville is going to be the most important one. I will be honest with you, in all the cities I've ever done, this was the most, and there's plenty more after this. These were the most taglines I've ever done, because I got to get it right. I got to go through this. I got to keep doing it. So I think the one that you're going to see, hopefully you'll share my opinion, is this. It might take a minute for it to kind of gel. But your history, that rich history that I showed you up there of being entrepreneurs at the turn of the century, the natural elements that you have here that made the gas exploration, the bricks, the glassworks, everything, the aeronautics, all that is fodder for your future. If you continue to do the things that the Coffeyville forefathers did, this place has no limits. So it might take a while, and it usually will, to have this resonate with you. But out of all the ones we did, I think this one says what I feel in my heart the best about the city. Okay, so the tagline's one thing. Here's another quote. I'll let you read this. Can you all see it? That's big type, so you should be able to see it in the back. I don't want to read it. Okay? All right, so my process, how do I go about this? Well, of course, desktop publishing, I don't do desktop publishing, but what I do is I look at what type font am I going to want? Because Coffeyville, first of all, it's very long and very hard to deal with. So you're laughing because you probably do it every day. So it doesn't mean condensed, which means squished together, but it does have to have some of that quality to it. So what I do is I go through hundreds of typefaces and look at, do these have character? What I didn't do on purpose was put old-style Western type in there, because that's not who Coffeyville is anymore. It's part of your history, but it's not where you're going. So I immediately got rid of a lot of those. So then what I do is I pull some of the ones I think are interesting. Now, why are they interesting? Well, there's certain curiosities about the type fonts, and I've been doing this for 60 years. So, I look for those little things that a lot of people don't, like this. Like when we have what's called a ligature, where those two F's are joined together there, that's cool. And we can do something with that. It also makes the word shorter when you kind of take liberties with using ligatures. The V and the Y. That's, we want to make careful, and we did get nailed through this process because somebody saw a W in there. So we kind of had to move them a little further apart. And so we reached a nice medium on it. But I go through and I look at these kind of things. What's going to hold up? What's going to reproduce well? Well, then I convert them to ones that we can really try. This is sort of the test run. So I'll go through a number of these, and you can see there's probably 20 sheets like that. Each one of those is a little logo. So I make that many to try and get to the one I like. When I like it, it means that I've got 50 years of experience doing it, and I can say, nobody has that. So here's the font that we chose. Now I've changed it a lot, so that now it becomes yours. You own this. This isn't something you can go out. You can find something that's close to it, but nobody has this font. It's the Coffeyville font. So originally it was what we call Roman. Roman is when the type is straight up. Italic is when it leans. Then having a discussion with your city manager, we decided that maybe we make it italic because italic is forward moving. It implies you're going somewhere. It's not stationary like Roman type. Roman type is just solid. In fact, there's an old adage, if you're doing a logo for a bank, always use Roman type straight up and down because italic looks like the bank's going to collapse. So, I don't know how much stock to put in those things, but so anyhow, we had to also put in Kansas, which we want people to know where we're from. So we tried a couple of things, like what if we put a photograph to resemble all those things, those equities that you have? Well, it was kind of cute, and it worked for about a minute. And then we decided by the time you get done creating 100 different logos with gas, and it wasn't going to work. But we still were looking for a way out. So we thought, well, what if the background was the image, and we had the type just reversed out? That again would be a complex process to do. So we gave that up. So Kendall's going to love this because your typical your current symbol is this, and if somebody's getting, is that neat? Yeah, I guess. So I've told them from the beginning, you got to get rid of this swoosh because the problem is, and I don't want to put him on the spot, but there's so many swishy things out there now, and if you don't have a good idea, you usually use a swoosh. And in fact, here's a company that only does swishes. And you can buy these. They come from Indonesia. They cost $100, but they sell them to everybody that wants them. You can see these marks were used over and over and over again.
They're not trademarked.
No, they're not. They're clip art, basically. So you might run into a company in Wichita that has one of those, and then you go to Hutchison, there's the same company. Different company, actually. But they just crank this stuff out. And again, in my younger years, it was an art. Now it's money. They just sell these by the pound. And it's disturbing. Okay, so I got into the swish thing, too. I didn't like the swishing. It's too much like Nike. It's too much like a lot of other things. But there was something about this that was interesting. And in fact, it was, first of all, a C. But it could be motion, it could be a lot of things. And it was just something I think that could have more of a story, more of a narrative than what the other swish had. So this is the whole thing. We call this a lockup. And that's where, this is the whole enchilada. right here. That's the mark. The mark is the C, the logo type, which is Greek for word, logo, and the tagline. So this is how you would probably see it coming out of your city manager's office or other places, but it doesn't mean that you can't use this, and we're figuring out ways that businesses can adapt their part of this to their marketing. It's important, again, to try and get this out there and have people sharing it. So, whoops. So what I did for the city is once we created this thing, well, how do I do back? Oh, okay. I skipped. Okay. So we did a guidelines. So we don't want to just give this digital file to everybody and then have everybody just run out and make T-shirts, and that'd be cool. But let us just go through this very softly and apply it nicely. So that, again, we get that string of cohesiveness. So what I did is here's just what your typical stationery could look like. Here's what some banners, which I think would be really good now that we're getting the old style hardware downtown, what some typical banners could look like. And then, of course, everybody's favorite, merchandising. That's where the money is. And, you know, whether you have a small shop in town or whatever, but I'd like to see that sign as I came into this city. And I think it'd be a good place for it. But even if you go to a conference or something, you can do a banner like that that promotes a certain aspect of what's going to happen in the city during a given day. T-shirts, coffee mugs, the whole thing. But they have to be thought out and applied right. So this was just a guide on how you could do that. Uh-oh. Did I lock it up again? Sorry. I'm making this man work today. Not that he doesn't every day, but. Well, it's blinking, but. Okay, just a few more folks, and. There, okay. So even then, what we call wayfinding signage around the town. I got to know where I am. You know, I drove here. I should know where I am, but I want it to be burned into my head so that I leave. You know, I'm going to remember those memorable points. Also, simple little signs that help you find where you want to go. I didn't include that little tiny sign near McDonald's about historic downtown. It's not this big. You could miss that in a heartbeat. But I think, you know, more directional signs on how to find your way around to the Brown Museum, the house, and things like that are eventually going to happen. You don't have to go out and pay for all that stuff right now. You do it through an attrition process like Kendall probably did with the old style stop signs. But you can have fun. You can have on a farmer's market signs. You can do a lot of different things with it. So, sorry. It's a big file, maybe that's why. All right, so this is another quote from one of your colleagues. So I thought that was interesting. Maybe it's a different kind of person that you're looking for now. All right, and this is way too much to read, except for the very first line. Community branding, which is what we're doing here, and marketing is more than a logo or a tagline. It's a synergistic process of engagement and partnership building. You're all partners in this now. You will be after tonight because you own this. This is yours. But you have to work together to make it successful. I can't do that anymore. I can advise, but it's up to you. So again, I'll make these available for you. Looking outward, this is important. I'll have to read this. It's an inward side. The inward side is a civic engagement and sense of pride that can arise from shared values and identity. Efforts by community leaders to strengthen or define their community's brand can lead to deeper citizen engagement and mobilization of socioeconomic actors. On the outward side, your community's brand is about how your community is perceived. So, and there's more stuff here. But anyhow, I found that picture. Wouldn't it be nice if downtown were like that someday? I don't know, maybe you don't want that, but I see all the capabilities of having a pedestrian zone, you call it in LA, place where you can walk at night when it gets hot in the summer and you want to get out of your house. You can take a stroll. You can stop at one of the local little neighborhood stores, not a franchise maybe, and just have a nice time. That's the quality of life we're talking about. So here's the tool that you have to use, as well as all this other information I gave you. And hopefully, you know, that you'll adopt this and be proud of where you live. We want to build this pride. And then the people I talk to have it. We just got to use this as our flag to rally around. Okay, so that's my presentation. Thanks for your time. If there's any questions? Yeah. Well, the history specific is again that one slide I showed of the entrepreneurship. I mean, in this town, there were airplanes, there was gas, you have tons of natural resources and these resources. So that's the important part. The Dalton thing is also part of your history. I don't think it needs to be the banner thing, because it was, you know, it was an unhappy event for those guys. But I think it shows the tenacity of the people in Coffeyville. I mean, where else do you see a story like that? I'd like to see a movie about that. Maybe there is. But there is? That's probably not a good one. I didn't. Is it?
Yeah, Bill Curtis put it together.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there's.
But that takes a bias for action and a unified drive.
Well, you have the components to begin that with, though. And we wanted to just make sure that they resonate with you and you understand the rich resources that you have. Taking it from there is a community project. Again, your history is important. The Dalton thing was important because, again, it showed the tenacity of the citizens. They weren't going to take this. And you shouldn't take having the blight or anything else that would come along. You stand up and you fight for it.
Well, do you see other towns, this is my last question, I don't want to dominate this, but I've been following this and I am absolutely obsessed.
And can I throw it back, before you ask your question, do people know who you are? Oh, well, let's introduce you. And why are you here? Yeah, so this is one of the people we're talking about. She could probably live anywhere you wanted. Where did you live before here?
Well, I have a home with you,
Okay, well. Okay, so again, we talked about the number of people that have come back and the number of people that have just decided to stay here all their life.
But just one other question, you know, because I was so impressed when I first talked to you about all the work that you've done. It's putting it up as if it's fully communicate to people, and there's no way they can know, but it's amazing. In your experience, can you help us with how to make this actionable and what the cautions are? Because this is great, but it's got to go forward. It's got to happen.
Well, that'll be up to your city officials to know. And I'd say that I only tackled this problem because I saw the potential. And that makes me very interested. I would hate to just have it be a hot potato now and I just throw it at you and say good luck with it. Garnett did that. Garnett had all the tools, and then they decided, well, we don't want to do this, we don't want to do that. So it never went anywhere. They got one sign out of it. But you got to do more. There's a lot of work here. But at least we've identified what some of those tasks need to be done. And I'd be happy to help, and because I can't just give you that and expect things to be different. You know, that's what galvanizing you folks here tonight was about. So what's the next step? That's one of the slides. What's the next step? You talk about it amongst yourselves. Talk about it at the restaurant you go to tomorrow or at the grocery store. You know, this isn't something that stops here today. It starts here today, right? Okay. And you are all privileged to be part of this and to own this. This is yours. So be proud about that when you leave here tonight. Sorry, I forgot to use this. That it's through you people that this happened. And I'm not talking about that configuration there. I'm talking about all the things we showed you, the 300 pages of interviews. I mean, that was real rich. And I, as I've said, I've done a lot of these things. And the interest, the support, the willingness to make Coffeyville, be proud of Coffeyville, resonated so much in these discussions. So I think you got all the material, just like you had all the natural resources and everything. You have the want. Now we got to convert it to the how. All right? So thanks, folks, for coming. And you want to say anything?
I always like to say stuff.
Good, I can get a drink.
Yeah. You know, I think what I'd like to say is when I came to Coffeyville and I was interviewing for this position, more than once I heard that we didn't really have a focus as to what we were, who we were, or where we were trying to go. That when I and the chamber and the excuse me. And, oh, okay. And you know, and convention visitors. You know, and Sam's here. Stacia Meek was the chamber director when we started this process. You know, it was our intention was to gain some focus for who Coffeyville is and where we wanted to be in the future. And you know, when Professor Thomas was recommended to us that you know, he would do a tremendous job for us, and we started visiting with him. I'll be honest, I probably didn't have a good understanding of truly what this was. I knew what I hoped to gain from it. I hoped to gain a vision for Coffeyville and a better understanding of who we thought we were. It's easy for me to come in from the outside and say, oh, we're the Daltons, and it must be what it is. That's all I ever hear about. And when we say history, I think people automatically say the Daltons. Well, that history is much deeper, much broader than one event in October. It's the flood. It's resiliency. It's those natural resources that he referred to. The reason that Coffeyville is here, it's the location. We're at the intersection, you know, of two major highways, and we're located in a part of the state that is rural but easily accessible to, you know, lots of things. That's everything Coffeyville is. And as he started, you know, he shared all of that dialogue with me. You know, I can't say that I've read it word for word, but I have read quite a bit of it. And those things that all these people kept saying, they were the same thing. Everyone had that same theme there in the back of their mind. Maybe they didn't know exactly how to express it. And, you know, so I'll be honest, the first time we started looking at some of these taglines, I think we had probably 60 that we went through. We narrowed it down to 10 possible ones, and then we've narrowed it down even further, and you know, had some input from, you know, groups of people and staff, and you know, I had one in my mind that, you know, I thought, wow, that really stuck with me. And then the more that we looked at this one and the more we started talking about it, you know, it really resonated with me. And you know, I'd like to walk away from here tonight saying this really is what we want to do, and we want to, and you're starting to see some of the residuals. We knew early on, or from some of this discussion, even before we got to this logo, that history was going to be part of it. So you started to see, you know, we started to understand that maybe downtown needs to be a little bit more historic. So we've invested some money to take out the traffic signals and make it a more pedestrian, give it a more historic feel in that area. And there will be some wayfinding signs that start to appear. And you know, Commissioner Martin has an idea about a gateway into the downtown area that you know, these are all going to be pieces that we obviously can't afford to do immediately, but we'll start eating that elephant one bite at a time. And the momentum, I do think, will start to, you know, pick up. And, you know, like I said, so it took longer than we thought it was going to.
Oh, that's my fault.
I don't know that it's anybody's fault. I think it took what it needed to take to get what we got. And, you know, I'm really happy with the results. I truly am. I really like it. And we've went through a lot. I mean, and we did some wholesale changes,
Yeah.
you know, towards the end.
Yeah. Have you ever gotten an email where you can just sense the angst in the email?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. It's,
yeah. It just wasn't right. And we just felt that. I think as collectively we felt that. It just wasn't quite right.
and he had to remind me of things that I had told him about branding last year
Yeah.
when I did something, and he said, "Didn't you say that?" Oh God, it's like a student catching me.
Yeah,
But and again, there's all these taglines that probably, as he said, any number of them could resonate with you. The one word that I was really stuck on, and I'll stop because I can just keep going, is resilient. That is such a powerful word, and specifically for Coffeyville, because it was like the flood. Okay, bring it on. We're resilient. We built back from that. We dealt with the Dalton guys. Were resilient. We were there to meet them when they had other plans. So resilient is what we need right now. We need the city to be resilient and bounce back from whatever and start this growth process, good growth. I will tell you that through the interview, nobody wants to do big box malls. Maybe he does.
Not really.
But, you know, you can get those nearby, but shopping and stuff, there's a very specific look at what kind of stores would work here. First thing of all, you got to get the people that will buy the stuff here and not go over to Oklahoma. And what kind of people are there? The socioeconomic kind that can afford it at this point. So there's a lot of variables that have to happen, but at least we've identified a lot of those things and can address them. So I'll quit now.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Peggy.
this is great. I said to many people now that I've been down in the district for 6 months, with my own money and my work investing in the city that I believe in and love. But I feel like when I grew up here, I was on a warm campfire and that was coffee going, it kept us warm, it wasn't perfect, but we could sing around it, and then, you know, things happen at the campfire, the all of a sudden it scatters, and there's these embers all around trying to reignite. And this is a tremendous gathering point for us. My big fear is that if it's not a bias for action, and somebody who has the buck stops here with the authority and the responsibility, and we really do make it happen, that this will just be another big initiative that didn't take off. That is a huge fear I have, and it scares me. And so I guess I would say, I'm in. You know, I'm in with what we've done. I'll help, and let's make it happen. but not hope that somebody takes it and goes, you've got to get a plan, responsibility authority, and really make something happen with all of the embers that are around there. Or it's just going to completely do.
Well, I agree with you, and again, for me personally, it's not good when we go through this kind of process. We spend this kind of time, and then then it dissipates. What do we do this exercise for? We did it to make a better place, and I think I feel very confident that the people that I've talked to, the survey that we got, there are those people here, and we just have to figure out how to channel that. Okay, but I think you're going to be a big cheerleader in this, and you have been already, and so.
Jim, I think Jim had a question.
It's obvious how much work you've done through the presentation and through your speech. It's obvious that you've worked hard at it, and I appreciate it. I'm sure we all appreciate it.
But, was there a but?
Yeah.
No, but.
Oh, okay. I was waiting for
Yeah.
I love it. I mean, I like it. I mean,
So what
I
would be
like
the
it.
next step?
Well,
Because I think we have to move forward. I agree with him. I came here 14 months ago, and I could have gone to Wichita to work, which I didn't want to do. And when I found this great hospital here and came here and went through this beautiful historic town, but I've been here, long enough to hear this, or know that there's a lack of pride sometimes in this town. It's a great place, and I think this is wonderful. This is great work, great work. And we do need to keep the momentum going. And what do we do? What can we do as business people, as community people? What can we do? What's our next step?
You started having, yes, we can talk about that. But now you have a flag to rally around.
Dr. Ham?
Sorry.
Yeah, just two quick talking points. You mentioned resilience and in connection with the golf and the flood. I had occasion some time ago to do a little research, and shortly after the Dalton event, there were articles like in the New York Times and newspapers in Kansas that spoke of Coffeyville resilience at that
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it said what the country needs is more Coffeyville.
Oh, I'd like to.
Well, here in a couple of months, we'll hit the 10-year anniversary of that flood, and it's going to be a time again to sing about Coffeyville's resilience, and a time for us to put that forward. And we are moving forward from, that day 10 years ago, and that's part of that history that's going to fuel everything else. Now we have a blank slate over there, something that we can work with in land. We will be looking to redevelop it. That's part of the things that fuels our future.
One other comment, so I look at the logo, the C, the big C that has two parts.
Right.
One is the historic past and the other is the future.
Thank you, sir.
And they're coming together.
Write that one down.
I'm going to have to write that down. Could you say it to me, Jerry?
I do this for a living. You want to work with me?
Yeah.
Thank you. That was
Yeah.
that's very.
Very insightful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank
Ma'am?
you. Folks.
I think we're...
I think the biggest thing is you're going to need to get this positive out the door.
Right.
And in the community, it's going to take all of us, quote unquote, preaching it to the rest.
Well,
And making everyone come here feel welcome. Have a smile. Be positive. That's going to make a difference. It's going to start with us.
Well, these people, you're here by choice.
Exactly.
I'm here by choice. I came to Coffeyville by choice. I didn't have to come here. You came by choice. And, so it's not that you were forced to be here or stuck here. And Dr. Ham, you've been here for, forever. And so you chose to be here. You had other opportunities.
I wasn't here for the race.
Yeah. Well, the day after the raid, you came to town. And so it is going to be those people that are here by choice that has to champion that a little bit. We're fortunate we have leadership, not only city leadership. We have commissioners here. We have chamber members. We have influential people, in the community that love this community, and there will be the people that carry this on.
Well, But that's, you're the evangelist for this, and because you're here, you heard my spiel. And it's not that you're gonna walk out of here and promote to your colleagues, your friends, your loved ones. It's that pride that all of a sudden, and I bet you there is some of that starting here. I can feel a little kind of gel, am I right? There's some pride happening here. What the future of Coffeyville could be. That's what you walk out with, and that's what you share with your others.
But then what happens to it? I would like to see an actionable next step.
Sure.
Resolving this meeting that somebody has to be somewhere and they're accountable for. I don't know who it is. But let's move forward with an actionable agreement on the next step in order to get this thing off the.
Well, and candidly, it probably starts with me and in my staff and the commissioners as we look at strategic planning and an idea of how we're going to take those actionable steps to move this forward. And we have some of those in place and things that we'll continue to work on, but it will continue from there.
My 2 cents. The one thing I noticed that having lived here all of my life, we're lacking the pride that we used to have.
Okay, yeah. Actually, there were a lot of.
In order to do everything else you've talked about, you need that pride restored, and then you'll have your action, and that'll be the reason to have the action.
I have quotes that around 1940-something, Coffeyville was the place. It had the best women's store, had the best
We
everything.
had everything.
Yeah, so we got to bring that back. Not that specifically. I think there's small kind of things that can happen downtown, and then other things that can happen in a more contemporary setting, maybe in the future.
Sam?
But you got to get the interest.
So just my 2 cents, and I'm saying what I'm doing towards this, kind of like something like when we were looking before this. I know like on the tourism side, I have a list of like some signs I want to get redone. And I think it's good that we are working with, we're pairing up chamber and tourism with the city and, the education, healthcare, we're trying to pair together, so we are being cohesive. And I know that I have some different signs, and I'm changing my logo over from Coffeyville Community Visitors Bureau to Visit Coffeyville. So we're making this new example of who we are, what we're doing, what we want to do. I know that, we're rebranding us to reflect with the city. Yeah, we're not part of the city, but we are part of the city because this is Coffeyville. So I think that we're moving forward in that way, just little things like the signs and the stop signs are wonderful. You said that's been what,
25 years.
25 years ago, they were talking about redoing stop signs. And finally, I know Luis has been pushing it forever. So little things, and I just hope as we leave this meeting that if you guys have questions, please ask. Because the worst thing to do is leave and be like, well, I don't really know what they're doing, so because that's gonna be the worst thing. But please ask questions, and if we don't know,
And offer suggestions.
Yeah.
What do you need? You said you have to work with the city commissioners if you have it here. I mean, what do we need and what do we expect from the city commissioners and the community in order to move this thing forward? This is like really important. What do you need?
What do I need from you guys right now? Probably to be like he said. He used the word evangel. Be out doing the things that you're doing right now, Peggy. I mean, you're everywhere. At everything I go to, guess who's going to be here? Peggy. She don't even live in the state half the time, and she's at more things than I am. Well.
Peggy's going to hit the road.
But it's all partnerships and us working together, and like I said, a lot of different prominent entities are represented here, and we already try to work together. Now maybe we have a little bit more focus on how we're going to do that.
So are you going to communicate? I mean, we'll all gladly, everybody in this room, go out and shout at the rooftop
No.
that, we need a new brand and a new logo, but we're going to need more than that. People start asking, well, okay, what are you going to do?
Right.
Are you going to communicate that with us, or?
I think that's going to come from Coffeyville leadership, yeah, and we have more work to do. Yeah, it's not just some colored logo and some italic words. It's got to be action too, and that will come.
This was just to get you up to this point.
Yeah.
From now on.
Mallory had a comment.
So, we're saying our history fuels our future. Can we tie that in maybe to some revitalization of like the downtown area? And history that we have.
Well, I can tell you that's one of one of the strategic things that the commission has looked at, and we talked about loft apartments, just a very small, that is something that they have said that they would like to try to incentivize. And if we get people living downtown, then we got traffic down, we got people downtown to support the businesses, because they're going to want to eat, they're going to want to be entertained, those types of things. So as we look at those little things that are quality of life that are going to attract those people downtown, the term probably millennials are the ones we're looking at, that are going to be entrepreneurial and come here and telecommute, because they want to live in a rural community, but they want to have the design job in California. You know what I'm saying? That are going to live in those loft apartments. So those are things that have been identified. It will take some work to get to that. So
And there's strategies for that, like high band Wi-Fi, Ethernet.
which is things that we're doing as well. We have broadband or fiber internet, and so those are all things that we're starting to work on a little bit that we're trying to make actionable right now.
Well, and then you look at loft apartments, for example, if you look at the lofts over, well, I've looked at the lofts over a couple of buildings, you look at the economics of it, that is a great idea. The economics don't work out right now. So something, as you said, has to stimulate people coming in and investing.
Right.
And really turning those around, because right now, in 35 years, you cannot do a pro forma that shows how a loft apartment will pay off if you don't let them do the renovation needed for some of these buildings that haven't been occupied for 50 years. But it can be done, but there's got to be some kind of incentive behind it.
Sure.
There's got to be.
Exactly. And to continue to support our anchor institutions, the schools and the hospital, and continue to partner with them so that they stay strong and vibrant. Like you said, we own healthcare in this section right now. Craig is making tremendous strides in education. Linda Moley at the college. These are all those anchor institutions that make us unique and vibrant.
But our hospital's so different than a lot of other things here. You go to a different town and they just, I read an article in the Wichita paper last week that was talking about the Topeka hospital that was near closing.
Mm-hmm.
It referenced Independence, about how they lost their hospital. And in the article it said, independent residents now have to go to Wilson. It's like, hello?
Yeah. Well, and so you have your work cut out for you as well, because that's what you're marketing.
Everywhere we go, anywhere around here, it's either you go to Independence, or you go to Wichita, you go to Joplin, or you go to Bartlesville, or you go to Tulsa, or Wausau, shopping, but no one ever talks about coming to
It's like the mug. Coffeyville wasn't on the mug.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's up to us to put Coffeyville on the mug.
Right,
Yeah.
And I feel we are doing it.
Yeah, I think so. Megan.
Find my tongue back here for a long time tonight and trying to keep it in a little bit. People need to realize Coffeyville is more than downtown Coffeyville.
Certainly.
There is so much more going on in this town than the buildings downtown. Just as much as we are not the Dalton, we are not the old downtown.
I would agree with that.
I can tell you from our experience, she's talking about people not coming to Coffeyville. There are people here trying to make those things happen. We happen to be two of them.
There is no venue in this town to do anything. You're going to rent a shrine barn for $650 a night.
We are going
That's
through,
$52.5 before you get started.
I have a
There's nothing
concert
in this
coming
town.
in August. We've been through at least 4 buildings trying to find the electrical powers that allow such a concert to happen. It's things like that. Like this concert is a nationally touring Christian rock band that is very well known in the Christian rock world that is coming to Coffeyville because they're going from one major music festival to another and happening to get them on the right day. But there's not a place to happen here. We hope we found a place. We will see. We have to go look at it, and my tech guys have to look at it. It's things like that. That has to happen. We have an older, what's his name? The theater guy who came to the commission recently. He's doing a theater production in his front yard. Because he has, it's things like that. You have to build it. I mean,
So let's not fool ourselves. It's not about money.
it's,
We don't have a lot.
well, what did it take to start the street drive. I mean, it's the sponsorship. You have to have buy-in from the community.
I want to, yeah.
I had to have buy-in from the community. There are a lot of people sitting in this room who helped sponsor that event and made it happen. And we had several hundred people, and not on a great weather day, come out and listen to the music and enjoy the time. There are people who want something to do here, and if they can do it with their families, then that's possible. We have to think beyond the box, outside the box. There's got to be things that can happen that don't necessarily revolve around Dalton, don't revolve around downtown, because people get tired of hearing those. It's a broken record.
Well, it also takes giant leap of faith, like Mr. Steele, come here and go all in. And we went all in on a deal that we weren't sure was going to succeed. And we put 2,000 people in town twice.
But you know that's more of that history. The racing was big in Coffeyville. You know, and so they took it, like he said, took a leap of faith, and it paid off. So.
Well, I'm sure if you have that kind of venue or that kind of concert, which is notable, you'll get some help somewhere. Something like that.
I believe Coffeyville can be more of a destination for the region instead of a industrial hub. I'm more worried about making what we have here better as opposed to growing what we want. I would rather see people from Joplin, Tulsa, to New Wichita come here to see a concert or go to some kind of a home show or something like that. That's stuff that we can control. We can't control mega employer coming in, but we can control what we got now.
But they sort of feed off of each other.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's a kit of parts. We're thinking about modular parts here, and how those, like Legos, how do those parts fit together? Well, I can switch them around, but as long as I got the parts, I can make it whatever I want it to be. So you don't discard one of those things for something else. You guys are interested in this area, that's great. It's really important that you're taking us on, and it's just it's another attribute for the city. And I think if you're going to attract that many people, that's probably state news. I'm marketing and PR. That's a big story. Christian news too. Yeah. So don't worry about your outlets and all that stuff. It'll happen.
I might have a good last question. Can we get a round of applause for Professor Greg Thomas?
Well, thank you, everyone. It doesn't stop here.
No, it starts here.